My name is George Arrants. I'm the ASE Alliance Manager for medium heavy-duty truck. What that means is in ASE, all of you are familiar with the ASE certification of technicians. We have an education foundation that works with schools. My job is to drive a medium heavy-duty truck initiative across the country. We have alliance managers in all the different states that help on the automotive side. Part of what we do is help schools earn a national accreditation. We also have a student certification, which is a work readiness credential. But my background is I taught high school and college automotive in the Houston area. I live in Lake Jackson, Texas, south of Houston, west of Galveston, 8 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. Haven't been on the beach in 12 years. Just doesn't do anything for me. After leaving teaching, I went to work for Snap-on Tools for 9 years, but my job was not to teach or to sell tools. My job was to help schools achieve the national accreditation through ASE. I worked very closely with an organization called Automotive Youth Education Systems, which was established in 1996 by the car manufacturers at the CEO level to drive internships in the car dealerships while the students were still in high school in order for them to foster a loyalty and become full-time employees upon graduation. During that time, I was also asked to chair the strategic development team under President Bush's high growth job training initiative for the U.S. Department of Labor. There were 14 high growth occupations and one of them was automotive. As an initiative, we received $13.4 million in grants. I received $900,000 with Gateway Technical College to upgrade the nation's automotive programs. Didn't get a penny of that. Also, I was asked to be a guest of the government of Oman. If you are geographically challenged like I am, Oman is between Yemen and Emirates on the Persian Gulf. I spent a week over there evaluating their automotive programs for the Minister of Manpower, and I'll tell you, professionally, it was probably one of the best weeks of my life. But I could have done everything I needed to do from my home office and not gone halfway around the world. And the reason is because the government, go figure, and education and industry were not talking to each other. That's really what it came down to. That's what caused the workforce gap, was there was a lack of communication, and that's really what it came down to. TMC, the Technology and Maintenance Council, it's part of the American Trucking Association. Some of you may know of it, may not. I did not know what it was 14 and a half years ago, but I missed a meeting I wasn't invited to. Don't ever miss the meetings you're not invited to, because you get voluntold. I was told that I was now going to be the chairman of a competition that did not exist for professional diesel technicians, and then we named it Super Tech. So 14 years later, just retired as chairman of the competition. We take up about 160,000 square feet. We had over 170 technicians compete in heavy duty, trailer, light medium duty, and future tech. We have it every year in September, and it moves around the country. But it's really to acknowledge the technicians for the job that they do. I want to thank the folks at Isuzu because you guys helped on the medium heavy duty truck side with the after treatment station, and it was a huge success. And really, what I want to talk about today is partnerships. We talk about this technician shortage every day, and you all talk about it, but do we really have a shortage? And here are the numbers. Let's define a shortage. Well, I'll say, well, we all need technicians. My question is, do you have a shortage of applicants, or do you have a shortage of qualified applicants? Two different problems. Many employers today are facing the qualified applicants. We got people that are interested in coming to work for us, but for one reason or another, they don't make the cut. Now, those of you that have a shortage of applicants, that's a different problem. That's a pipeline issue. There's a solution that, but there's two different solutions. But most employers through TMC that we surveyed, nearly 90% came back and says, we have a shortage of qualified applicants. That's very fixable. And that's what we're dealing with around the country. And they are two different problems. Now, everybody says, well, they're closing these programs all over the country. Well, they're not. In certain places of the country, they're growing these programs because somebody finally woke up and decided everybody's not going to go to college. Okay? For 4 decades, we've been sending every kid to college that's the pot of gold. And nowadays, in this decade, a lot of the kids coming out of college are in debt up to their ears and can't find a job. But in the same 4 decades, we forgot to develop the workforce that was going to maintain the infrastructure of our country. But we do have a lot of young people interested, but they're just not making the cut for one reason or another. Here's our workforce. The traditionalists, baby boomers, I call us the gray hairs and the no hairs. We're a massive generation. The traditionalists, they're the greatest generation. We have Generation X. They're just mad at the world. They're starting to get over it, but they're mad at the world. Brian over here is an Xer. He looks like a boomer, but Brian is an Xer. He has some gray hair, but he's working on the no hair. And last Wednesday, we figured out why he's mad at the world. He's a Cubs fan. There you go. Then we have Generation Y. Most of us that understand this generation spell it W-H-Y, because they ask why about everything. And then we have the millennials. Now, some of you realize that, wait a minute, I heard they put that two group together. Yeah, some idiot decided to put the millennials and the Ys together. And my son is a Y, and he says, I ask why. He goes, I'm not needy. But think about it. Most of us in this room created this generation, right? We've been giving them a trophy for last place since they were 6 years old, when we should have said, pick another sport, right? They're winners and losers. Now, many of us here, gray hairs and no hairs, we know if you won, you got the trophy. If not, you went home. Too bad. Either pick another sport or get better, right? But many of you in this room, your children and grandchildren, have a room full of participation trophies and plaques that are not worth the material they're written on, are they? Nope. But the trophy companies are making a fortune. They got you guys wired. But now those students are entering the workforce, and they want the same thing from us. They showed up for a week, and they want a trophy, and you tell them the trophy is a paycheck, and they go, no, I want more than that. You go, that's what it is. But we have to understand the workforce that we're dealing with. We, the baby boomers, we're massive, and we are retiring. Many of us are lucky enough to retire, but some of us are not making it, passing on. And we're creating a gap in the workforce. Now, we knew this gap's been coming for 20 years, 30 years. And the reason we know is we know who is going to enter the workforce in the next 2 decades. It's somewhere between the mother's womb and exiting the education system. We know what's in the pipeline, and we know what's exiting the pipeline. And the reason this gap continues to do this is we as business and industry, we're not voicing our needs to education. We're allowing education to continue to give us the poor product that they've always given us. And a lot of times, it's our own fault. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Most of you may not know this, but your human resources person does, is every occupation in this country has a 6-digit code. I don't care if you're a window washer all the way up to a CEO of a company, it has a 6-digit code. And most of your technicians are coded right there. That's where they're coded. Every even year, the U.S. Department of Labor posts how many people are in that occupation. But they also project out 10 years growth and replacement. Now, growth is you added a second shift, or you added 2 bays, or you added another location. Replacement is they either got promoted, they either left the workforce, or whatever reason, they're no longer there. And what's important is in 2014, we had 263,900, and they projected the growth to go out to 295 with a growth of 31,600. The total growth in replacement is 76,900, with the replacement being 45,300. What does that mean? More than 50% of your workforce needs is replacement. So you're spending a lot of your time trying to backfill positions just to stay where you are right now, not even considering growth. So you're saying, okay, you idiot, you just told me we don't have a technician shortage, but the Department of Labor says got 76,900 shortage. Let's ask the rest of the story. How many do we graduate a year? And when you look at these numbers, they're pretty convincing. We got a shortage. Automotive, we're at 273,000. That's a shortage. No, it's not. We graduate nearly 11,000 diesel students at the post-secondary level every year. Post-secondary is after high school. Community college, tech school, private for profit, all of that. Almost 11,000 times 10 years is nearly 110,000 diesel graduates. Where the heck are they all going? On the automotive side, 45,000 automotive graduates at the post-secondary level. And some of you folks say, well, we do diesel. Yeah, automotive guys do the same thing, right? A volt is a volt, an amp is an amp, and an ohm is an ohm, isn't it? Sure is. But where are they all going? And what's the real problem? Many of you are not looking at those that are graduating. You want the experienced tech. You're out there and you've been out there hunting every week for years looking for the experienced tech. Give it up. They don't exist. And the only ones out there looking for a job, do you really want? Think about it. The techs that are good and are happy, they're not looking. The ones that aren't, they are. And they come with baggage. You already know that. You just don't know how much baggage or when it's going to show up. But it's going to show up. And if you honestly believe that technicians are leaving you for 25 cents more an hour, I have a bridge for sale. We've been telling you that for 4 decades. I was a tech. I tell you I'm leaving for more money. Why? Because then I don't have to tell you the real reason I'm leaving. And those of you that have multiple facilities, if one of them has heavy turnover and the other one doesn't, it's time to look in the mirror. Problem's internal. It's your problem. Yeah, we have an aging workforce, and technicians don't last till the age of 65. But if you're looking for experienced folks, the only ones truly out there are the ones you probably don't want anyway. You've already had them before. They've caused chaos in your shop. They've affected your company culture. This gentleman, Kevin, you're laughing. You're going, that man's right. But every week you still put an ad in the paper looking for one of them, don't you? You bet. The generation after us is a lot smaller. So the pickings are a little bit less. And they truly convinced that entire generation to go to college. What does it cost to find and hire a tech? Do you know? Do you actually know what it takes to start the ad to get somebody into the shop floor first day on the job? If you don't, I would do that math. Because some of the fleets that I work with in TMC, they'll tell you it costs nearly $8,000 to put a tech on the shop floor first day. Going through all the interview process, all the ads, all the background checks, all the drug tests, all the different things everybody's got to do to put one person on the shop floor, $8,000. Then if you've got a big shop and you have a 20% turnover rate annually, you're spending a lot of money. Excuse me, you're wasting a lot of money. They all have baggage. We all do. But if you have never been a technician and never packed up your toolbox to move to an unknown, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you have, you know it's never about the money. And with this generation, it is totally not about the money. That's what we don't understand sometimes. And will these people blend into your company culture when you hire them? Many of us in this room, gray hairs and no hairs, we're boomers. We grew up having both parents have the same last name. Dad worked, mom stayed at home, we had one car, right? Is that the same for this generation? Not even close. This generation, completely different. What's the biggest difference? The family that we know does not exist for the most part in their world. Think about what I'm getting ready to tell you. 2% of this generation, one or both parents are incarcerated. When I was a kid, I knew a kid who knew a kid who knew a kid who knew a kid who knew a kid whose dad was in jail. That's the closest I ever got to it. That's it. Nowadays, it's in our face. My sister-in-law taught kindergarten for 39 years in San Antonio, Texas. In the last 10 years, they were not allowed to ask kindergartners what their parents did for a living because they were afraid of what was coming out of their mouth. Do you know what's really important to this generation? They want a clean, safe work environment. But more than anything else, they want to feel like they're part of the family. And if you can't make them feel like part of the family, they're going to find somebody who can. Because remember, you're with them more time in the day, in their life, than anybody else in their life. Think about that. That's what this generation wants. They're completely different than us. This generation does not know who shot JR. And most of them think it's some dead president. Lady over there's going, who the hell's JR? This generation has never got up to change the channel on a television. Think about that. But we're expecting the same things from them that we expected or was expected of us when we started in industry. It's a little different. What I ask a lot of employers, do you treat your employees like your children or like your grandchildren? And think about that. Do we want to nurture them into our company culture and have them stay a long time? Or do we want to point fingers and discipline at them and say, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to do, and then they go find some other place to work? It's kind of a revolving door. It's really not about the money. If you have a millennial or a Y that works for you and you ask them to stay over, what is their first thing that they ask you? Can I have comp time? Think about that. It's not about the money. They want comp time. They want you to give them back the time, the extra time that they gave you to be in their world. My generation, we live to work. This generation works to live. And maybe they got it right. You know what I mean? And if we don't understand those two things and those two differences, we're going to eat our young. Because it's different for them. They'll give you the time, but that's all they're going to give you. And if you ask for more, they're really not looking for the money. They're looking for their time back. Because that's what's important to them. So what's causing the shortage? What education is teaching isn't what you need. You already know that. But how many of you in this room, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, are actively involved in your local auto or diesel program? And if you're not, you're part of the problem. Every one of you in this room is both a personal and professional taxpayer. And some of you that are business owners, you spend a staggering amount of money in school taxes. Did you ever ask them what they're doing with your money? You ever gone to the school and found out what they did with your money? Now in Texas, we have a little problem. We have our priorities a little screwed up. I'm going to tell you that. Everything around right now revolves around high school football. No ifs, ands, or buts. Yep. And when you really understand how bad it is, just Google Texas high school football stadiums. And then do Katy, K-A-T-Y. That's just west of Houston. And they floated a bond. And in the bond was to build all these new schools and to build a high school football stadium. And it passed. And they built one. $80 million. $80 million. Seats 18,000. You bet. Most people don't know in Texas, even in the little schools, you could be season ticket holders for high school football. My kid was in the band and we were season ticket holders, so we had the right seat. How's that? And then when he was a freshman, we got not really good seats, but as he went up in grades and other kids graduated and their parents left, we moved up the ladder of the season ticket holders. So, if education's getting your money, but you don't know what they're spending it on, you're probably not getting the product you need. My hat's off to a group of folks, though, up in Fresno. Anybody here from Fresno? If you are, your tax money, those folks are knocking it out of the park. There's a guy, his name's Mike Betts. Mike Betts, Parts and Service. The business has been around 150 years. Mike and I became friends a couple years ago, and he worked with the Fresno Development Council. And a group of folks kept saying, we need technicians, we need technicians. And Mike took it on himself to go out and figure out what the need was. And then Mike personally went to 3 school districts, Madera, Clovis, and Fresno, and showed those people at a high level that we need diesel technicians in the Valley area. And then I came in and formed a committee, a large advisory committee of business and industry. We met at Mike's place. All 3 of the schools applied for a grant here in the state of California, and all 3 got them. Each school district also put aside $6 million. And then each school district got between 2 and 3. Clovis got 3. If you want to go up to Fresno, they'll have their new shop finished by the end of November. The grand opening is in February. That's your tax dollars working. It wasn't because the school districts woke up one morning and said, we're going to build a medium heavy-duty truck program. We're going to spend $9 million of your bucks. No, it's because industry came in and said, here's what we need. Now you got 3, they're going to be beautiful programs. They're going to be state-of-the-art. Now we're dealing with some, excuse my French, we're dealing with some political folks at the post-secondary level that don't understand big picture, but we're getting through that. But at the high school level, boom. 11 students are already, diesel students, seniors are at Fresno. All 11 are already placed. Boom. When industry gets involved, you are the taxpayer. They can't tell you no. You need them to know what's important to you. And when we sat in those meetings initially, the school thinks that in diesel we want to teach engines. Is there any one of you in this room going to put a 19-year-old on a $60,000 engine? Ain't happening in my lifetime, is it? We explained that to the schools. They need to understand electrical, brakes, suspension, PM, a real PM, how to look up service information, how to write on a repair order, how to tell the story. They need to understand what CSA is and out of service criteria. Those are the skills that we said we want you to teach. Focus on those things. That's what industry wants, and that's what those programs are doing. And why? Because industry got involved. Even if you don't have a medium heavy-duty truck or a diesel program in your community, there's an automotive program. And there's a gazillion automotive programs around the country. And many kids that want to work on trucks, they want to work on your trucks, are in those automotive programs because it's not offered at their high school. So what do? They take auto tech. It's the next best thing. I live outside of Houston, Texas, 4th largest city in the country. We have 0 diesel programs at the high school level, 0. But I got 42 amazing automotive programs. And I have Mustang Caterpillar that's growing its entire workforce from the Cypress Fairbanks Independent School District's automotive programs. They're not recruiting anywhere. They're growing their own. Holt Caterpillar is doing it out of Grand Prairie, Texas. You can too. My son is now a diesel student. He's at Wyotech in Laramie, Wyoming. It's the only place I'd send my son. I can send him to any school in the country. It's the only place I'm sending my son. Did my son wake up one morning and want diesel? No. He kind of tinkered with some things. He tinkered with automotive, but kind of fell in love with this niche. I took him up and showed him the campus, introduced him to some folks. That's where he is. Now, this is a kid that lives 12 miles, 8 miles from the beach. He's freezing his butt off, but he's a pretty happy guy right now. You bet. But the reason I sent him there, content is content. But what they teach is professionalism, and that's what a lot of you need. That really trips up a lot of kids, young people in the interview process. They take attendance 8 times a day, once an hour. If your butt's not making contact with the seat when the bell rings, that's 5 points off your daily grade. One time I went to recruit up there a couple years ago, and a kid was there 15 months and had perfect attendance and says, you want to see my grades? I said, heck no. Where do you want to go to work? My son is afraid of leaving early to catch a flight for Thanksgiving because he doesn't want to have a single tardy. We all know we can't teach work ethic. but some places they can. We have to make sure that education is spending your tax dollars on things that are important to you, and making sure that those skills that those students have match what you need. And then you can grow your own workforce locally. It's important. You need to be involved or have your service managers. People need to know who you are and who your business is, and also the brands that you represent. And once you walk through that door and you sit in those meetings, they're going to listen to you because you're the taxpayer. But more importantly, you're the guy or gal hiring the product that they're producing. Use your pool of local entry-level people. I can tell you, if you recruit a young person out of a tech school, a young person between 19 and 21, and you move them more than 300 miles from their original home, their chance of success with you is 20%. No ifs, ands, or buts. I don't care if it's the best kid at a WyoTech, a UTI, a Lincoln Tech, or a community college. You move them more than 300 miles, 20% chance they're going to stick with you. Ain't going to happen. History proves it. Be part of the solution. Do not be part of the problem. And if you're not involved in your local program, somebody else is getting your kids. Somebody needs to represent your company at the schools. You're looking at about an hour to an hour and a half twice a year of your time. That's it. What else? Your company culture could be part of the problem. You could be part of the problem. The way that you onboard individuals into your establishment. Let me give you an example. A bunch of you are standing around and you're talking about technicians and you're talking about technician problems, and the conversation goes like this. We hired this kid from this really powerful tech school. He came in with this brand new red toolbox. First day on the job, the first job I put him on, the kid screwed it up. I cannot believe we wasted our time and money on that kid. Did the kid do it wrong, or did the kid just do it different than you do it? Because the kid was taught proper process and procedure. You probably changed the process and procedure to get the vehicle out sooner, or your company has a different policy. But was there anybody there to mentor that individual to grow into your company culture, or did you just throw them to the wolves? At TMC SuperTech, the only thing I test on is process and procedure. Every one of our stations in our competition is about not fixing the truck or fixing whatever it is can you do whatever this procedure is correctly by manufacturer's process and procedure or TMC's recommended practices? And I'm telling you, they don't do a good job at it. In 14 years, we still have people scoring a 30 in wheel end. 30 in wheel end. That's not positive. Two things I know about wheel end. If you don't have a calibrated dial indicator or a calibrated torque wrench, you are not doing wheel ends correctly. I know that for a fact. That's what little I know. In one of our electrical workstations, we had 29 professionals score A0. And all they were doing was working through a relay. How's that? I'm going to be honest with you. Most technicians know two spots on their meter, voltage and continuity. The rest of the spots on the dial have no idea what they do, no idea how to use them. And I can tell you, in your shop, probably nearly 80% of the shop, the fuse is blown. So we only use the fuse for amperage, current flow. And most of the time they hook up the meter wrong, blow the fuse, and they go somewhere else. Industry is expecting entry-level people to be productive the first day of the job. Give it up. You weren't productive the first day of the job or the first week. Why are you going to ask of it of anybody else? And in this generation, they want to be part of your organization. They want to be part of the family, but you have to onboard them into your culture. But if your culture is caustic, they're not staying. You need to put them with an individual who is good with younger people. Somebody who is either involved in scouting or Little League or their church or something. Not your flat rate guy or your oldest guy that's grumpy and mad at the world and is really just a bear until he's had the third cup of coffee, which is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Our expectations are too high. They're students. They have training and they have knowledge, but they have zero experience. The only place they're going to get the experience is in your place of business. And you can either teach them your way of doing business in your culture and grow them, or you're going to kick them to the curb and you're going to blame them. When the problem is right in the mirror. If you're not mentoring or doing a mentoring program and you're trying to bring young people into your place of business, I don't have to tell you, you already know it's unsuccessful. And many of you say, we tried it and we gave it up. Yeah, well, you did it wrong. You threw them to the wolves. You have a culture in each one of your shops. That kid does not know what that culture is. Somebody's got to guide them through that culture to be successful and to become part of that culture. They want to be part of your family. Give them the opportunity. There's no transition to the workplace. That's why this AYES initiative has been so successful. We intern students in the summer between their junior and senior year in car dealerships with a workplace mentor, and have since 1996 in 46 states. Nearly 1,500 a year. Yeah, that's right, 16 and 17-year-olds in car dealerships with a workplace mentor. And at the end of the summer, if it's successful, instead of the student taking auto tech their senior year, they go to school half a day, go to the dealership. When they graduate from high school, they're either a full-time employee or go on the manufacturer's program. What a concept. Grow your own. Foster the loyalty. If your shop managers and your people in your shop don't understand this generation, they're raising them, but they don't understand them, we're killing our young. And what is your culture? We already talked about what's important to this generation. The other thing is, other industries are stealing our products. There are many industries out there that don't have auto or diesel programs. They don't exist. So they're stealing our kids. The biggest thief is wind energy. When did you ever see a wind energy program? There's one in Sweetwater, Texas. If you know where Sweetwater is, it's not the end of Earth, but you can see it from Sweetwater, okay? The only way you know you're going by Sweetwater at night in an airplane is there's like 1,000 blinking red lights, and you know, okay, that's got to be Sweetwater, because there's no lights except for the blinking red ones. That's it. But other industries, HR people, and especially staffing agencies, they've gotten pretty smart. When their customers say, these are the skill sets I need, they try to figure out where they can get them. Advanced manufacturing. Manufacturing is taking our kids. All different types of industries, because they know how to use tools, they know how to use them safely, and they have basic problem-solving skills. Now, on the truck side, it's not as bad as the automotive side, so you all already have an advantage. The automotive side still has not woken up, and we're still paying these kids horrible right out of the box. We expect them to bring a box of tools, and we're paying them horrible, and they're not sticking. On the truck side, we're doing a lot better, and those kids are sticking. But they got to know that you exist and what you have to offer. But wind energy, they're starting them out on average $17.64 an hour. You bet. And they don't have to have any tools. And they get a truck. Additional expenses. We all know that you have to have tools. Now in California, that rule is different now, isn't it? You can't require tools, can you? If you do, you got to pay them twice minimum wage, right? So all of you are already buying a set of tools and you're putting it in there. Some of the tool companies, especially Cornwell, they'll allow you to buy at the student set price even once the student is graduated if this is their first job with you. And that's pretty cool. But in other parts of the country, what a lot of companies are doing now is they're buying that first set of tool and saying, we'll give it to you after 2 years. Once you've been with us for 2 years, we'll give you that set of tools. Up until then, it's ours. So that day when that millennial gets mad and they say, it's 9:30 in the morning and you made them mad and they go, I quit. You say, see ya. 15 minutes later, they're going to go, I'm sorry. Because they ain't got nowhere to go because they don't have tools, right? After 2 years of back and forth, you guys learn to get along and they're going to stay. There are many occupations out there that don't have programs that train to their needs, so they're going to take our kids. And they're going to come into these programs and they're going to take the best kids. Many of you probably go to career fairs. And you and 25 other people you don't know or do know, you're all standing around tables talking to the same kids. And all of them, it's at the end of their career in education. Did you ever think about going in on the beginning? Introducing your company and your culture to them when they start school? And make sure it's somebody from your place of business that doesn't look like me, not a gray hair or no hair, somebody that the students can relate to. Maybe do a shop tour and take them out and show them your facility, especially those of you that have newer facilities and what you have to offer. Now, while they're going to school, your brand and your company is now embedded in their head. What we did at Wheeltime is we created different things that we did for students, and we created a contract with the school that those students that meet at a certain grade point level and a certain attendance level, we would give them free training or free ASE test preparation or possibly an internship. We would do things for those students that met the criteria that was important to us. Wasn't going to say we weren't going to hire the other ones, but the ones that did, we were looking at them a little bit different. And we did that at the beginning. And really what it comes down to is, what's important to you? Grade point average, I'm okay with grade point average at wherever you want to put it. Attendance, it's got to be high, right there, 97%. Let's be honest, if you got a kid that shows up 97% of the time, you could work with that kid. Doesn't matter what their grade point average is, right? But they could have a perfect grade point average and they show up 90% of the time. They're not worth a whole lot to you, are they? Education needs to understand what's important to us. We need to let them know that we're willing to do special things for those students that meet that criteria for our company. We'll provide them with real-world opportunities prior to graduation and after graduation. I'll share all of this with you, and it'll also be up on the website. Get involved in the front side and not the back side. Don't be one of those other 20 or 30, 40 businesses at the career fair. Be the guy or gal that they already know and have known for 2 years, and what are they going to do? They're going to walk right to your booth. When I was at Wheeltime, we went into the Wyotex and we did presentations the day before the career fair. And then when the career fair started, we just stood there and there was just a line a mile long. Everybody's looking and saying, what? We told them who we were because they didn't know who we were, what we had to offer, and where our locations were. You bet. Let's change the way we do business, and let's work with the local talent. So what is the ASE Education Foundation? The ASE Education Foundation is a division of ASE that handles what used to be called NATEF, the National Automotive Technicians Education Foundation. It's a national accreditation for programs, auto, collision, truck at both the high school and college level. It's one of my areas of expertise. It's also the AYES, the Automotive Youth Education Systems. It is that internship that we developed for the automotive industry that we're now using in the diesel industry, and we're also using in the collision industry. And then ATMC is the Automotive Training Managers. There is one of our alliance partners, and these are our alliance partners. Isuzu is an alliance partner. Isuzu stepped up to the plate to be a financial supporter of the Education Foundation. And that means I work for every one of you in this room. My job is to help you partner with schools in your area. Now, I have alliance managers all over the state that can help me locally. But one of our partners is this company right here, SP2. They do safety and environmental training for schools and industry. They also have intern, mentor, and company training on how to onboard individuals, resume writing, soft skills. The guy that owns the company is a good friend of mine, and I asked him a few weeks ago, can you tell me, and they're not in every school in the country, but can you tell me how many automotive kids are taking your SP2 training? How many collision and how many diesel? Right now in this country, taking automotive at both the high school and college level, 130,000 automotive students. We don't have a shortage. We got 130,000 kids, not in every school, that wants into our industry or part of our industry. How do we get them from that point into your dealerships? Simple. Get involved. My job and my alliance managers, partners, it's our job to help you get there. That's our job. You're a priority to us because you're an Alliance member. Your manufacturer stepped up to the plate to be an Alliance member. Now all we need you to do is say, hey, can you help us out? Where can we get some schools? Or how can I get involved with the Fresno? Or who's the contact at Fresno or Madera or Clovis? Boom, how can we get involved with them? How can we be part of the process as they're building these programs to make sure the buildings are done correctly? And I think you guys have been in on the meetings too. If I'm not mistaken, your company name looks familiar to me. Yep. It's been a pretty powerful meetings too. And it's a list of who's who from industry in that building. You bet. I'll tell you, the Arkansas Trucking Association, they got it figured out. They are driving a train like nobody's business. They got a state senator on their committee, and they have the ear of the governor. And they are changing everything in their diesel programs in the entire state of Arkansas, that if those programs don't meet their needs, they're going to do away with them. So the colleges have no more voice in what's being done. Everything's being driven by industry, which is pretty powerful. This is kind of my fun slide. You expect 100% of your employees every day. Are you giving them 100%? Are you really doing everything that you need to do for your business to grow, whether it's service or sales? And if you're not involved in your local schools, you're not. You're doing what you've always done, and you've got what you've always gotten, and we sit around and complain about it. Those people that don't complain about it, it's because they got it figured out. They're involved. But this is a fun slide. This is what would happen at 99.9%. And think about it. I have to give 100%, or what part of the truck don't you want me to put back on? Right? It's either fixed or it's coming back. And it could come back 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, but we hope it doesn't. But doctors would drop 50 newborn babies every day around the world if they only caught 99.9% of them. We would have 1 unsafe hour of drinking water per month, 2 unsafe landings at O'Hare Airport every day, and I have 2.2 million on an airplane. Sure glad they all touched down just fine. 16,000 lost pieces of mail per hour, but I bet you the post office accomplishes that feat for us, don't you think? 20,000 incorrect drug prescriptions would be prescribed per month, 500 incorrect surgical operations per week, and 22,000 checks would be deducted from the wrong account daily if they were at 99.9%. And those of you that are gray hairs and no hairs like me, our heart would fail to beat 32,000 times a year. We're sure glad that ticker's at 100%. We want to grow our businesses. We want to grow the sales. We want to grow the service. And I'm telling you, in your local schools is all the talent that you need. They're right there. And they're in your neighborhoods. They're in your communities. There's no relocation. They're right there. If you really understand millennials, you know the answer to this. Cereal sales have been down for the last decade. And cereal companies have done massive surveys to figure out why. The millennials are also killing American cheese. Okay? There's something in it they don't like, so they're not buying it, so it's going in the toilet. Yep. You know why they don't eat cereal? They don't want to wash the bowl. If you got a kid at home, you go, yep. So now what do? You can go to the convenience store and you can buy cereal in a bowl, right? Disposable. No bowl to clean. That's what they did. You have to look at this generation and how are you going to engage them into your workplace? And if you're not willing to engage them and you're still going after this experienced tech with the baggage, God love you. I want to thank you for your time today. I hope I didn't waste your time. And I hope I gave you some ideas of what could be going on inside your facilities, what's not going on, but how to take care of this concern. And the concern is simple. It's a national concern, a local solution, and the local solution is get involved. Thank you for your time.